This podcast is sponsored by Inside Out Group, the specialists in high-risk and challenging filming and time-lapse, covering health and safety videos for rail, construction, and infrastructure projects nationwide.
And we are live. Welcome to this week's Safer Than Your Average. On the show this week, we've got Simon Henser. Simon is a non-safety professional and he's part of our mini-series that we're running of people that have been influential in my career. I've asked Simon to come on because, as well as being a managing director for one of the biggest rail supply companies in the industry for the signalling market, he also goes out and engages with these people really well. So he's not just a managing director that sits behind a desk wearing a fancy suit. He gets to do that sometimes, but he also goes out in the railway and know what wet socks feel like on a Sunday morning after a hard 12-hour shift. So I'm just going to ask Simon to come in and introduce himself. Over to you, Simon.
Hi Blair, thank you very much for inviting me this evening. It's fantastic. Really appreciate the opportunity. It's great to have the opportunity to talk to you. It's quite interesting because I am actually going on site tomorrow morning. So I'm leaving home at 5 o'clock. First thing down at Warrington to present a safety award to one of our guys on the Siemens project down there. So it's I've always said to you, I like to wear the fancy suits and the ties, but I do like to engage with the guys that we have on site, and that's how we met on site. On night shift, walking the track on the Egypt project, and I've always felt that you've got to get out there and get involved on that, and we've always been passionate about that, and that's something which I feel that you've got to lead from the front, and my guys are doing it as well, but I think personally you've got to do it from the top.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah.
And you're very visible in the industry. You go out and you engage with your people really, really well. You've always got that buy-in with them. They all are on first name terms with you. They can come up and talk to you about issues that they've got or any kind of good practice that they've had. And one of the things that we'll probably cover a little bit further on in the podcast is the fact that I was massively impressed when I first seen you presenting your safety awards, that if the guys donate it to charity, you double it.
Yes.
That's fantastic. What a motivation that is as well for your teams.
And that's what we're doing tomorrow. One of the guys on site, and he's been given a safety award for stopping work. There was a very dangerous occurrence, not with Siemens, but with another contractor. He stopped the work, and he used a Siemens 4 steps, which was really, really positive. And again, we said to him, would you like a cash amount or would you like something for charity? And they always choose a charity. They always go for the charity. So it's a real benefit. So he's got the pleasure of me going to site with a few cakes and a certificate and a pat on the back, and it promotes good safety behaviour, which is what we're trying to do.
Brilliant. So I don't know if you've seen the format of the podcast, Simon. We like to just go right back to the beginning, a bit deeper with our guests and find out a bit about their background. So if you want to tell us a bit about where you grew up.
All right. Well, you can tell by my accent that I grew up in Lancashire, in a place called Bury. I was there for about 5 or 6 years before I moved south, and I now live in north of London. I think that's probably the easiest place to describe it. And a great time up north, and it was fantastic. But what families like, we tend to move. And I got into recruitment. I had aspirations when I was young. I don't know if you remember the series. I don't know if you're old enough to remember. There was a series on BBC called Lovejoy, and it was about antique dealers. And I had this idea that I was going to be an antique dealer like Lovejoy, and I was going to go around and find these old antiques and sell them. And I got into it, and I did my A levels. I got into history, and I was really interested in it. And I got offered a job. And this guy phoned me up, we met up, and it was for this art dealership. And he said, I want you to start as soon as possible. And I was like, I said, I've got my A-levels. He went, well, don't worry about your A-levels. You work for me. You'll be traveling the world selling these Japanese antique bronzes. And I said, I put a lot of work in. I can't just give it up. And I was only I think it was Wimbledon time, so it's just about a month or so before the exams. he said, if I don't find anyone, by the time you finish the exams, the job's yours. So I finished my exams. I phoned him up straight away, invited me up to the gallery, and I met the person who had my job, and they were very experienced, and they spoke 6 different languages. So I missed out on that opportunity. So I was kind of like, you know, what am I going to do? I wanted to go to antiques, but I always had this work element. You know, I'm from a working class family, Blair. You know, I didn't have pots of money to go to university. So I thought I'm going to work for a year, and I started in the recruitment game. And I must add that I've never been great at engineering. I've tried engineering, and probably my first experience of health and safety was working in one of these old workshops where they had the steel saws. And you know, the way we were taught not to go too close to the steel saw was with a whack on the head. There was no protection. There was uneven flooring. It was terrible. But I learned very quickly that I wasn't particularly good at that. So I joined MPI as a trainee. Worked in the defence. So we support the RAF, Marshall's Aerospace. We work with them. The BBC. ITN, lots of different companies, and it was really exciting, and I did lots of traveling even at a young age. And then one day we started doing work on the railway with this company called Westinghouse. And we'd always supplied them wiremen, but we hadn't done a lot on site. And then they'd acquired a company called Civilian Control UK. And I went down to site, and I met this guy called Steve Johnson. He's from Doncaster, and he calls everyone, you know, Duck, and he's brilliant, great engagement, great in talking to the guys. And I turned up on site in my brand new suit and shoes, and I remember walking through the car park, and it was all muddy, and he looked at me and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, I've come down to see you and bring some PPE for the guys. He went, "Well, you're going to speak to the guys?" I said, "I don't know who the guys are." So he introduced me to all the guys. He goes, "You're going to come out on site?" And I said, I haven't got a PTS. He said, "Well, you need to get a PTS. You need to understand, you know, what you're dealing with." And that's how it started. And I was so lucky that I had somebody like him who sort of took me under his wing. You know, it's all about engaging with people, and he engaged with me. He saw that I was keen. So I did my first ever commissioning, and you know what commissionings are like. They're 12 hours, but I think I was about 21, 22. And he said, "I want you to come on a commissioning." So I worked all day in the office, jumped in my car, 2 hours down to Kent, got on the commissioning. And he's like, "Right, I want you to go and do this, I want you to do that." I'm thinking, it's like quite late now, about 12 o'clock at night. And he's going, have you got a hotel?" "No, I haven't got a hotel." "You didn't work today, did you?" "No, I didn't work today." He goes, "You better stay in the office." And he sort of said to me, he said, why would you want to spend all day working and then go straight into a 12-hour shift? And I did think to myself, what am I doing? And I drove home. I was really tired. And he phoned me about 4 or 5 times. I had to pull over because the phone I had at the time was really old. And I kept on answering. He goes, "You all right?" I said, "Yeah, I'm fine." Got home. And he phoned me again. He said, "Will you ever do that again?" And I said, "No." And it was in those days where you could kind of teach people, and the lesson to me was that, you know, you can't do that. And that's why we always insist when guys work, the traveling distance is really important, you know. And as I say, and I know how hard it is, as you do, what it's like when you go from a night shift to a day shift. In the following day, you're shattered, aren't you? You know, we've both got children, young children, and you know, when you're talking to them, it's hard because you want to engage with them, but you need your rest. You need your rest.
Yeah.
I mean, fatigue is such a huge issue. So yeah, I kind of learned the hard way, and that was a start. That was a start for me in railways, and I started, you know, engaging with the guys from Steve, and then, you know, we had a few different clients, and I think probably I was about 25, 26, and I met this guy called Mark Wild, and he's now head of Crossrail.
Yeah.
He brought me in, and he used to talk about hearts and minds about safety. So you really got to believe it. You've got to get into the engagement of the guys. And with him and a lady called Linda Salt, who has unfortunately passed away, she was a health and safety professional for Siemens or Invensys at the time. They really started to give me a bit of underpinning knowledge. So I did my IOSH, managing safely. They got me on some of the groups to deal with the different behaviour-based safeties. They used to do something called stop and talk, where you talk to someone about it was always interesting because, you know, there's a different aspect of safety about, you know, inspectors going out and marking things wrong. And you could have on the stop and talk, it was all about the positives as well as the negatives. So if someone, you know, the basic stuff, the low lying fruit, you know, someone's not got the right PPE on. Okay, that's an easy one. But this was, you know, these guys have got good safety behaviours. They're acting really safely. They're working safely. You know, they've stopped work when something's not right. Their paperwork is really good. You know, things like that. They've given me a brilliant briefing. You can then fill that out and give them some feedback. I mean, I'm saying filling out. Everything's electronic now, isn't it? No one fills anything out.
Yeah, it's all on tablets now, isn't it?
It is, and you know that's obviously fantastic. But that engagement was really good for me. It's really good to have somebody in a very senior position at a company like Invensys at the time to really say, I want you to take the next step. I don't just want you to be a director of a supply company to me. I want you to be leading from the front. I want you to be pushing hard. So he was always challenging me to sort of do better for myself, and you know, I wanted to prove that I could, because he was, you know, he had a lot of senior people under him, people like Rob McIntosh, who's like head of L&E now for Network Rail, you know, the managing director, influenced people like Richard Cooper. He was a real safety leader at the time. So we looked at different things, and we looked at work safe, go home safe, be safe, different ideas, trying to get the guys to sort of understand, you know, why we wanted them to be safe, try and get that awareness about, you know, if they do something dangerous on site, how that might impact their families. And it was just trying to get that. And we talked to them about that, and we did various interfaces with them where we go on site and talk to them about that. And I got a nomination from my old director, and he put me forward for, there's something called in the IRSC, which for anyone who's done railway or signalling, it's the Institute of Railway Signal Engineers. They've got a safety award called the Wing Award. And Mark Wilde had won this award, and my director put me forward for it, and I won it as well. And by that time, Mark had left, and I sort of sent a little email to say, just so you know, Mark, for your positivity, your encouragement, I've got this award. And as I say, I still speak to Mark now. He's obviously on Crossrail, and my crafts don't pass as much. But it taught me, if you can be positive to people about safety, it can drive them on. And I try and be that, you know, with my guys and my team and the girls who work for us on site. You know, it's that enthusiasm, and you've obviously had the enthusiasm. You know, you've always been the one to come up with different ideas and different approaches, and, you know, trying something new. And, you know, there are some things which the guys think, oh, it's brilliant, and there's other things which I don't. And things like your safety stand downs, where the pizza, you know, let's have a shift off. Let's not worry about the shit. And, you know, you had great support from the management. Let's not forget that. But then you can get them round, and it's not 50 blokes in a room, is it? It's, you know, little groups of guys chatting about different things, then moving to different areas, and that's where it has to be. But we're always, you know, looking for the next idea. I mean, I went to an Amy stand down safety day a couple of weeks ago, and it was one of the best ones that I've ever been to. And
I saw you post that on LinkedIn. That was excellent.
Honestly, Blair, it was, they had it on all week. It was up in Bedfordshire way, and I did say to Amy, it's one of the best ones I've been to. And bearing in mind with COVID, it makes it really hard to have safety engagements at the moment. You know, there's very few. It was outside, everyone was socially distanced. There was small groups going around different areas. So there was a civils area. It was like a troughing route, which was absolutely awful, and you had to spot 50 problems with it. and it was the paperwork. There was like a cut cable. There was all little things. And then after you had your 10 minutes, you then went and looked at the how it should be. And you got marked, and then you went round the signaling, the OLE, and it was just really good, because I was with a couple of track guys, with a P-way guy as well, and I didn't know these guys at all, and we got on really well. It was really interesting, and at the end, there was a guy there called Johnny Nelson, who's a boxer, and they sort of said he's going to talk to you about boxing, and his sort of rise from, again, working class roots and how he got into boxing. And he's brilliant. He's because most boxers, they always say they undefeated, undefeated. He goes, I started off and I was terrible. I lost like 7 of my first fights, and he was great. And then he talked about mental health. He said, you get to this point where I was like, the welterweight champion of the world. What did I do after that when I got injured? How did I deal with that? And he was talking to the guys, and what I loved about it, that everyone was engaged with him. There was a senior project manager, there was a project director, there was a trackman. Everyone was asking questions. Yep. And he touched on a subject as well, which I think is really good to talk about: diversity. Black Lives Matters. Some really interesting subjects, which, it was great to get it from his perspective. And again, he's got some really good stories about it. And I recommend the way he engages with everyone is fantastic. And I think Amy Rail, to do that at such a difficult time was so important. And again, I got to see my guys out on the site. I was out there for the day. We got well fed. And as you know, you've got to keep the army well fed. It's about the morale, isn't it?
Yep,
so yeah, I mean, it was good. So yeah, I'm out tomorrow. I'm still trying to get involved in that as much as possible. Obviously, I've not been up to Scotland since the whole lockdown, which is disappointing. But I understand that, but I did. At the start of lockdown, I did do a virtual safety tour. And you will know that the site, Fullerton Drive, was in excellent condition. There was a one-way system. All the guys had packs, everything, you name it. But again, it was 10 o'clock on a Saturday night, and the guys are going, Henser, what are you doing? And I'm going, we're having a virtual safety tour. And he's going, well, you shouldn't be talking to me at 10 o'clock. And I'm saying, but it's great, isn't it? And it was Big Ian Kemure, one of the guys who works for me. And it was really good. And I spoke to all the guys. They felt safe. They felt secure. Because as the whole COVID thing, we want to protect our families, which is so important from it. But people have to work as well. So if you can go into work and it's safe, that's really important. So hats off. And we got some great ideas, because we was, even at that time, at my company, MPI, we were all working from home, and Gemma, the operations manager, she's done brilliantly to get everyone back. But some of the ideas we got from the safety tour, the one-way system, on the toilets, the vacant, not vacant, you have to do it, everything, the temperature test, we've gone above and beyond to do that. And and again, it goes back to it, sharing best practice, Blair, as we both know. There's no point reinventing the safety wheel. If you've got a good idea, you're the sort of person to share it, aren't you? When you attend your safety forums, if you've done something which is really good, you share that, because at the end of the day, it's good for your company, and it was good for the companies you worked for in the past. But most importantly, it can save someone's life.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's the most important thing. So we've always been happy to share with some of our competitors some of the best practices that we do, and social media now with LinkedIn and Facebook and all the other ones. We put it out there. So if somebody wants to do the same, and I had a couple of people phone me up about the virtual safety tour to say, how did it work? And I said it was great, because if you haven't seen anyone for 6 months. You're a people person, I'm a people person. It's about talking face to face and engaging, isn't it?
they start to forget what you sound like and what you look like, don't they?
And it's about building relationships, isn't
Yeah,
it? You
yeah.
know, because you might talk to someone one day and it might be a great day for them and everything's fine, but you just might
Mhm.
talk to them that day and it's not a good day. And that's how relationships with people become stronger. And, you know, you learn how people work, and, you know, that's something which is key. And that's something which has been hard during this period. But, you know, prior to that, it was speaking to the guys and talking to the guys.
Mhm.
So.
So tell us a little bit more about your career journey through MPI then, Simon. So you went from being a young, fresh-faced recruiter. What was your next step on the ladder from there?
Well, as I say, it was entering, you know, the rail side, and as I say, you know, I was very fortunate that Steve Johnson, a Yorkshireman, very proud Yorkshireman, he he got me to a level, and, you know, we started dealing with lots of different clients then, you know, people like Atkins and
Mm-hmm.
Alstom and GC and then Network Rail, and it was just building the business. And, you know, we've gone from predominantly supplying people all over the country. You know, we're the biggest signalling supplier in the UK on LUL and metro projects, but we also took on some fixed price packages of work.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, the biggest one we've done is a platform extension, a signalling element for about £5 million. But again, you know, that in itself is really challenging, because,
Yeah.
you know, you're putting budgets together, you're bidding for work, you know, and I've always had a process where, you know, I've always known my limitations. I'm not a signalling expert. I've got a professional head of signalling. I've got some excellent signalling guys. I've got a very, very basic knowledge. But I was using my guys to price it. And, you know, margins are tight. You know, and we've got to put in there, you know, we had to have a safety representative on site trying to work out the number of shifts. You know, you guys earn a lot of money, so we've got to pay you a decent rate. You know,
Yep.
It's all about this. And, you know, it's trying to get that balance right. Now, I have to be honest, you know, we learned a lot of lessons on that commercially, on how to work, but we got, you know, it's a fantastic job for us, because, you know, we delivered it with the satisfaction of the client, but most importantly, we delivered it without any accidents or incidents. And it was like a double edged. The first job that we've done like that,
Mm-hmm.
it was really pleasing for us to do that. And to be honest, you know, our guys are slightly different, because, you know, we don't supply so many of the guys at the coal face. You know, our guys come in and, you know, they do the testing, installation, but then they're not sort of, you know, the companies that they work for, you know, safety is key. You know, they've got the confidence from us and from our clients to stop. I still think there's potentially some companies out there who still, you know, take a bit of risk, but we've always been very fortunate that we can stop that. And it's a bit like the safety award tomorrow. You know, one of our guys stopped another contractor doing something which was dangerous. And when I send you the picture of it, you will not believe it. You will not believe it. It was a guy under what's the best way to describe it? He was under a machine. There was a bit of troughing underneath this machine, and it was just, yes, he just, you know, it was amazing. And our guy had the courage to turn around and say, "That's not safe. Stop
Yep.
that." And that for me was brilliant.
It's great to be able to inspire your people, and that's one of the reasons why I asked you to come on, Simon. I've worked with your guys in and out over my entire career on the railway, and had a great understanding of how they operate, and them being able to speak up and have that confidence to speak up. Some of the toughest safety briefings I've ever done is a room full of MPI guys asking you questions about it and want to know more information, but it's all good that they're able to speak up and really have that engagement with you.
But that, in fairness, is a positive for you, because there's nothing worse than doing a briefing and saying, "Is there any questions?" And the guy says,
quiet. Yeah.
all they want to do is get out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they've got the confidence that they can talk to you,
Mm-hmm.
and you talk to them as you would do anyone, and that's the way it has to be. You know, and I've always had the philosophy you know, in my personal life and my working life, you treat people as you want to be treated.
Yeah.
So, my first times when I used to go to Scotland, people used to say to me, why are you spending so much time in Scotland? And I said, because, it's about, meeting people and engaging with people and talking with people. And, I remember some of the sites I used to go to, and, they weren't always in the safest of areas, but I used to like to walk from the train station to the sites, and I just, to see the people, and I'll tell you what, touch wood, I've always had, excellent experiences up there. I've never had any trouble. It's always been great. The guys have always been great. They've always been pleased to see you, and that's how it's worked. So, I think it's to say, you've had that experience. You work in a similar way to us. You want to talk to the guys, don't you? You want to get their trust,
line engagement, build the trust, build the relationship up, so that you can trust them to go out and carry out the operations, and they'll come and speak to you when something's wrong. And that was great, fostering that with them and knowing a little bit about their background, a bit about their family, a bit about their situation, to be able to build that relationship with them. It's a great way of working.
Because you want that trust that if there is something serious, and there's two ways to look at it. I mean, they may have been involved in something serious. Something serious might have happened to them, and that it's not always easy for the guys to talk up. But there's also if they've made a mistake, and we've all been investigations where you want the guy to just be open and honest.
Yeah,
put his hands up, because we all do it every day. We all make mistakes. I've seen you driving. We all know that mistakes happen all the time, and you want that relationship for a guy to say, I have made a mistake. I'm really sorry. And he hasn't got the fear factor.
Yeah.
Because we've got to encourage that as well. We don't want mistakes to happen, and we'll retrain people, we'll mentor people, we'll correct the action, but we want them to have that confidence. We don't want them hiding stuff. We don't want the sort of, can't tell Blair, can't tell Simon. We want that, don't we? We want a bit of banter. We want them to be laughing at our shoes and the state of our hair. So we want that, but at the same time, when there's something serious, that's as well. And I remember having a conversation, particularly, I think it was on one of the projects up in Glasgow. We were talking about fatigue, and people were saying about how important it was. And I challenged the manager, and I said to him, right, you've been on the railway 20 years, most of it nights. How many times has a guy ever phoned up and said he's not coming in because he's too tired? And he said, I haven't had. They might say they're ill. They might say, and I said, that we want to encourage that at times.
Yeah.
Again, some of the guys, their daughter might be ill off school. They've got to look after their kid all day, and you want them to have the confidence to say, I'm not coming in today. I've not been able to sleep, and have that trust. And the guy, you know what? Don't worry about it. You've worked hard for me the last 2 years, 3 months, 4 weeks. Have that night off. Thank you for doing that. And that's what we try and do. And that's what we try and build in the guys on the sites. So it's a journey though, isn't it? That's what we say, don't we? It's a journey, and it's about
always developing, isn't it? You continue to build those relationships and foster them as you go through your career and try and keep them moving. If we move on a little bit then, Simon, if we talk about what's been your biggest challenge across your career, health and safety wise.
I think the biggest challenge was, I've always, from an MPI perspective, even from a young age, I've always had the full support of my company. I think originally when we first started, the chairman couldn't believe, how much he was spending on PPE, because again, we always wanted to get the best PPE for the guys and do what we can. And it was a different world. He was a former, engineer. He didn't really understand, you provide your own boots or your own. And I said, no, we want them to have, you've got to be a certain standard. We want them to, so, I had to get those guys to trust me and then engage with the clients. And, I guess, working with different people to integrity is key in this business. lies are easily found out.
Yeah.
We have a certain level. We treat our staff very well. So initially for me it was to get MPI on board. I mentioned about the early challenges. Some agencies in all types of business, utilities and railways, they look at individuals as pure ways to make as much money as possible. Okay, and a lot of those companies don't last very long. A lot of those individuals who work for those companies, they'll jump around. They'll work for lots of different people, because the guys don't get their PPE when they want it. They don't get their training when they want it. They don't do, their manual handling. They don't do the specific skills and training and what they require. But that does cost a lot of money.
Yeah,
it's not cheap, and you can kind of see why they want to do it, because they're trying to maximize as much as they can, and we've never had that. And I've with my team, I'm very lucky with Gemma, the operations director MPI, that she's driven that with the whole team, that we always ensure that the guys get what they need. We reward the positive behavior, and then it's developing with the clients, because every client that we have has a different view on safety. I mean, everyone's trying to develop their own safety culture. So, Network Rail have got their life-saving rules.
Yep.
Siemens have got the 4 steps. Alstom have got a different type of rules. Atkins have had a different type. I think it was a type of cultural safety, which I did about a guy called Steve Winton about 6 or 7 years ago. They were the leaders of it for a while. Different people work, and I've got guys, and they're going, right, is it the life-saving rules? Is it the 4 steps? Is it the what am I, the golden rules? The safety Southern Safety Shield? There's lots of different cultural safeties, but at the end of the day, there's some very, very key elements. And we adopted the 4 steps to zero harm. It kind of said to us what the guys needed, and it was 4. It's quite easy to learn and understand, and I love the engagement with the 4 steps, because be fit for work. You can have a real good conversation with a guy about that, because what does fit for work mean? Is he physically fit? Has he got a bad back? Has he got a bad knee? How did he hurt his knee? Is he on medication? The fatigue element. Has he had to, has he travelled too far? Has he got local accommodation? Is he staying in digs? And then, most importantly now, and it's something which is great that we're all discussing. Mentally, is he fit for work? What goes on behind people's closed doors, we don't really know. But you're having these conversations, and
especially in the current climate as well, with COVID-19.
Oh God!
People could be going out to work. They're in that alpha state. They're worried about what's happening in the world generally. If they're going to have a job next week, we're in unprecedented times.
Correct. So we adopted some of the best practice from some of our clients, and we've got some mental health first aiders. I've got a guy who does a lot of our training. He's our stress counsellor, a guy called Pete Pay. He's a fantastic guy. Pete used to work in our aviation sector, and aviation is quite strange, because they have got some terrific processes with regards to health and safety. And they do something called human factors. I had Colin Russell on a couple of weeks ago, who's director of safety at Flybe. That was making a first foray into crew resource management, and having a bit of an understanding of that was one of the training courses my wife done when she was an airline cabin crew, that Colin had written for Thomas Cook, called Safe at Heart. So that was an excellent piece of training, and it was really interesting. That's all based on the kind of human factors, how you approach people, how you have a conversation with someone, how the conversation's received. So the top ranking captain on the aircraft, who's effectively the manager or the director,
how he can then interact and take a complaint from one of the lower level crew or someone that's less ranking than him and take it seriously and act upon it as if it was the co-pilot that had raised it, for example.
Yeah.
So there's no kind of bias there. It's all broken down into that sphere that they'll take it really seriously, no matter who it was that raised it, as part of the team. And it's all about fostering that team relationship as well. So really interesting stuff.
Well, I've done the course, and we presented the course to other industries, and as I say, again, the guy who runs it, he's a great guy. He engages. I mean, he's worked for MPI for many years, 20 years. He's ran our aviation sector. He's now doing the training. His claim to fame, once a year, he used to have to move Concorde.
Mm-hmm.
Concorde was stationed at Bristol, and he used to move that. So, you know, when he talks to and trains our guys in the railway and aviation about human factors, you know, he's been on the tools. You know, he knows what it's like to sit there and he always says, he goes, you know, there you are. You know, you're looking at me. I'm overweight. I'm old, and I'm telling you this human factors training about something which you're going to be bored about. And he says, you know, I know that. So I'm going to try and make it as interesting as possible to get you engaged as possible. And the thing is, he's one of these people, sometimes you're laughing with him, sometimes you're laughing at him, and he knows that. And that's all about, you know, almost comic timing, but he gets you engaged. And we did have a day on a railway project with Alstom, and he presented to a number of the railway guys. And again, you know, because I don't know about railways, but I know about safety, and I know about the importance. And you know, he really got into the guys. And afterwards, the guys are coming up, so oh, he's great. We love him, and he now does a lot of our small tools, our first aid, and I think one of the biggest, most pleasing things which I shared with him, he did a first aid course, basic first aid course for some of our guys in Manchester. And about 2 months later, there's a member of the public who collapsed with a heart attack, and both of our guys resuscitated him. And again, you know, we've got some fantastic feedback. They saved the guy's life, and it was amazing. And one of them phoned me up and he said, I just want you to know, he went, I really, really panicked. He went, I kind of froze. He goes, the other guy I was with, he's ex-army. So it was like that switched on mentality. But he goes, I'm not. I didn't feel comfortable. And he said, the training which you had provided for your guy, all of a sudden kicked in. I kind of knew what to do. And he goes, can you just pass on my thanks to him? So I phoned up Pete, and he's from Bristol, and he goes, all right, mate. And I'm saying, yeah, Pete, I've got some good news. And I told him, and he went, brilliant. And again, it's about being positive, isn't it? It's having that engagement. You know, he's done thousands of first aid courses, thousands. And, you know, he won't know how many people have used that, but he does know that, you know, he has saved somebody's life.
Yeah, well, that one call.
It was fantastic. I mean, I got a phone call, and it was great. So, yeah. So the human factors, the aviation side, you know, that they've got a very different take on that. I mean, we supply guys who repair tank repairs, aircraft engines. I mean, these guys are extremely safety critical. Yeah. They fly all over the world. You know, aircraft on ground. My director for aviation, a guy called John Herbert. He gets the phone call, you know, the flights are booked. They were out in Geneva last week. They've been in the Cayman Islands. They go everywhere. And they repair these leaking aircraft. Jet2, TUI, Virgin, you know, these guys. And again, they've got the human factors training. They've got the confined space. They've got, you know, they're skilled engineers. But it all comes at a cost, Blair. And I think, you know, you've got to be so, you know, we when we do our budgets, you know, it's a big element of us, the safety budget. And there's a lot of competition out there, and everyone wants to undercut. Everyone wants to be the cheapest. Everyone wants to, you know, there has to be some value.
And we know that, don't we, that the cheapest isn't always the best. you need to have that quality there behind it, and you can't do it for free, you know.
No, and you know, I'm saying that on a basis that you do see it, and you do see the guys, and sometimes the guys will push their sort of companies too much, and they'll sort of like they'll demand more money when there isn't any more money in the pot, and you know, they won't get the PPE or the training they need. And I've always fought back against that. I've always said, you know, this is what we, you know, we pay you. This is a service that is expected us from our clients, that we will provide you with this. You know, that's it. But it is that probably at the moment in the current environment is the biggest challenge, because, as I say, the company now, you know, we've got a great safety culture at MPI. You know, we've sharing best practice. We've got involved in, you know, the behavioural safety, the human factors. We're also looking at the mental health of the people who work for us. You know, the general health. You know, we have step challenges for our guys and girls who work in the office. You know, who can do the most steps. I think one of the records was on a project. There was one lady, one of our testers, did about 25,000 steps in a shift. So we put that out, and then it's a challenge, and then I'm getting a message, and then it's like 26, 27. I don't believe you. Send me a picture. And it was really going for it, and it was great, you know. And it's about this. We did a sleeping one. You know, what sort of hour sleeps are people doing? So we're really focused on that. And you know, we won last year for our company size, Britain's Healthiest Workplace. You know, and that was a fantastic triumph. But again, that was do you remember Nairi? I just had a chance conversation with her one day about, you know, Britain's Healthiest Workplace and what you had to do. And again, she shared some best practice. Yeah. Said, this is what we do.
And it's all about sharing it across the businesses as well, isn't it? It helps everybody.
And, you know, it was two-way, because we got happier employees and guys out on site.
Yep.
And we got fantastic recognition for it as well. And it's like it's a win-win, isn't it? You know, if I have an excellent safety record, you know, we will get more work. You know, and that's the key thing. You know, so we've got to promote that. You know, I don't want people phoning me up saying, "Oh, your guys, you know, are poorly trained and they've got rubbish PPE and they've got terrible safety behaviours," because you won't get work on that basis. We want guys to come up. You know, someone used to say it was like the Ferrari team. You know, they've got to wear the nice trousers, the shirt. You know, everything needs to be clean, and you know,
and they all want to wear it because it's got the Ferrari logo on it. It looks good. It looks stylish. It fits well. It's comfortable to wear. Yeah. The other thing that I want to bring up as well, Simon, is let's talk about the trainee signalling installer scheme that MPI came up with. It was a great bit of innovation, and it was groundbreaking for the industry at the time that you came up with it. Can you tell us a little bit of the detail behind that, how it came about and how you implemented it?
You know, sustainability, you know, is hugely popular. It's something which we all talk about, you know, and all the tenders. You know, it was a challenge. You know, the industry that you were in and I'm in. You know, there hasn't been a lot of investment in certain areas for young people. You know, there's a lot of apprentices with the main companies, and they do some, you know, Network Rail and Siemens and Alstom and Atkins and Amy, and they have a lot of good apprentices. But for the lower level guys, there wasn't really that career path. And you know, we wanted to bring something to the party, and you know, we were thinking about different ways that we could. And I suppose it ticked a few boxes. It was trying to bring local people to local projects. Guys who lived in Glasgow to work on projects in Glasgow. Guys who don't have to travel 6 hours to get to a job and stay over and miss their family. And it was all about getting these guys in, providing them with really good quality training. And giving them a career path and giving them a good qualification and experience. And giving them, support and mentorship, and we did that on various projects for various clients, Alstom and Atkins, but predominantly Siemens, particularly in Glasgow, and Campbell Braid really bought into it, and we got a lot of good guys in. And also on the Thameslink project in London, we had quite a few guys on that. I mean, two of the guys now work for Network Rail, and this is the other thing: we're taking guys in, we're getting them the experience. They all had the training, they all had the safety training. Some really good young men and women from all different backgrounds. Predominantly working class backgrounds. From all different backgrounds, and some of them still work for us, some of them have gone permanent, which is great, some of them have gone to different clients, some of them have gone to Network Rail, and it was just giving them that opportunity, and it was great, and the next opportunity we're always pushing to do it. I mean, I'm a big supporter about developing young people, but it wasn't just about young people, because we had people from different careers. We had electricians, we had guys from the oil and gas industry.
Yeah.
And, the railways are unusual, as we both know, Blair, because, you work nights a lot.
Yeah.
You work weekends. I'm sure your family and friends have said to you when you worked on a railway, you work every bank holiday, Christmas.
Yeah.
It's a bit weird.
Yeah.
It is
it's
a bit
a
odd.
lifestyle than a job, isn't it?
It is, and it doesn't suit everyone, to be fair. It doesn't suit everyone. I've had some guys who just it's not for them, and they hold their hands up and say, I can't do the nights, I can't do the weekends. Christmas, it just doesn't work. But we've been very fortunate that we've developed some really good young people, and they've got a career path in the railways, and it ticks that sustainability box, because that's the point. Particularly now with regions, you want that region, those people, they take pride. They want their railways to be good. They want their railways to be first class, because when we're back on the trains, it is the best way of travelling about, unless you've got an electric car. But
just think you throw that one in there, Simon.
But it is really, isn't it? When you look at it, the systems in place, it's a fantastic way to get out. We're trying to reduce the cars on the road. The railways are great. They're trying to make them efficient. They're trying to make them faster. We're currently supporting Hitachi on the SPT project at the moment. But again, two of those lads on that job for us, 3 years ago, had no railway experience, had no signalling experience.
Yeah.
And they've been developed. They developed at Siemens. They're now working for someone else. They might work for Siemens again. They might work for a Babcock, a Network Rail. And, it's about that experience and investing. And they're local to the job. You phone them up and it's like, it's 20 minutes away. It's lovely, because, a lot of people in the railway do move around the country. So it's fantastic. And, it's something that as a business, we invested. I mean, I think we worked it out, over £1 million in training, easily £1 million. And we've got some really good people. And as I say, for every young person who might leave us and go to a new company, we've got new people coming in. We've also got the more mature people who have entered retirement age. They're coming in as well, and that sets us different challenges, because they've come out of a big company and they then want to do part-time work, and it's getting them engaged and
what a great skill set to have that crossover between your young people that are coming through as trainees and people that have been there, done it and seen it all, and be able to bring them along under their wing and teach them a little bit of their experience.
And that's how the railway used to always work, and it's nice that that's still happening, because there's nothing better than learning someone who's got some good experience. And it goes back to it. If that elder person, that more mature person, is good at interacting, he'll recall what it was like for him. You know, he'll give them the positives. You know, when he sees them, you know, and I used to say this about one of the guys in Glasgow about the stop and talk. He used to say, oh, why am I going out to pat someone on the back for doing a good safety brief? And I said, hold on a minute. I said, what you've got to remember is, I'll drop his name because you know. I said, you're Jerry Finn. You know, you're the best signaling engineer in Scotland. If you say to a low, you know, installer cos, you know, somebody who's just starting off their trade, well done. That was a fantastic briefing. Well done. That was a great bit of work. That guy is going to be made up. And he goes, do you think? And I said, Jerry. I said, and I think that's the thing that, you know, when you reach, it's about that praise. And the guys did. And it's, again, different journeys, you know, different conversations. And, you know, I'm sure there was challenges that you had, Blair, with, you know, the old give the guys a stick, you know, just be firm with them. That doesn't work. You know, we're in a different generation now, but there will still be some of those voices. Oh, you're too soft on these guys. Come on, don't. But, you know, being positive with people, with the guys and girls that you have on the ground, is you get so much back from that. You get so much.
Definitely.
You know, we're not taking for fools. You know, you've got to have those hard conversations at time.
Yeah.
Oh,
we've had plenty of them as well over the years, haven't
we? But the thing is, we've sat down and talked it through, haven't we?
Definitely. And it's all about that working relationship, isn't it? So if we continue on a little bit then, Simon, where do you see yourself progressing to in the future? This is going to be quite an interesting one for you because you're at the pinnacle of your career. You're massively respected in the rail industry. You've done great things with MPI, getting to the stage that you're at with the business. What's next?
Well, I'm you know, you won't be able to tell, but I'm still, you know, a fairly young guy. Yeah. I'm only in my 40s. I mean, I know I look a lot older, but that's the night shifts and the early mornings and the children and having to deal with you, Blair. But no. In all fairness, you know, it's developing staff within MPI. It's still maintaining and building the company. I've mentioned, you know, the aviation sector, which is, and I've been hit really hard, as you probably know, by COVID. You know, we had about 150 guys working at TUI doing the aircraft maintenance, and you know, because of what's happened, you know, that's been reduced significantly. So, you know, I do love working in different areas. You know, we're starting to set up a division to do utilities. We see that as a real positive. We've got some guys who cross over into utilities, and we're looking to grow and develop that. You know, that for me, you know, I've mentioned about the training. The training is growing, but again, you know, developing a sustainable business where we can bring in local people. I mean, we've got a lot of apprentices at MPI, a lot of young people coming through. We've recently had somebody I know from a baby join us, which makes me feel dreadfully old. And we've got a very good apprenticeship. But it's championing those young people to come up, you know, work in different areas. What areas can work in finance, you know, payroll, credit control, safety for us, all the different areas. What he's going to find exciting. And still carry the charge and lead from the front with the engagement. Maintain that as much as I can, and you know, that for me is my plan. I've still got an extremely young family, so you know, I'm a great believer in work-life balance. Yeah, it's really important, you know, to go out to work, but you also need to spend time with your family. And you know, I've got a big team, and you know, a lot of them are fathers and mothers. And you know, I've never been that dad who misses a school play. You know, I try and make whenever I can to pick them up from school or take them to school. Not every day, because it's not always possible, and it's probably a bit easier now because there's not so much travel. But you know, when it's busy, I try and do that. I try and have an afternoon off with them if I've worked at an evening dinner or something, I try and spend that time, and it's getting the other people in my team to do that as well, Blair. And I think that work-life balance is really key, because you can work all the hours, you can burn yourself out, but you've got one family, and as you know, they're only young for such a short time. Mine are a bit older than yours, but I think that's really important. Our team, we've got a lot of working mums, and we've been really good at supporting them in the COVID time, because obviously it was a working from home, and then we're returning to work, and then some of them couldn't come back because they're children. So we've done that, but as I say, I try and do that myself, and I try and lead. I'm happy to be in my fancy suit picking up the kids from school, or in my oranges picking up the kids from school. And I tell you what, one of the best experiences I had was a couple of years ago. I had to speak to the children in the class about my job. And, I used experiences of people like yourself and people like the guys in Glasgow and other railway projects. And we talked about safety, and we talked about mental health, and we talked about fatigue. And one of the girls in the class, her name's Chloe, her dad worked on the railway, and she was saying that her dad always works nights, and how tired he was in the mornings, and how he was always trying to wake him up. And it was just having that engagement, with her. And we got you've got to have a lookout horn in the classroom. I mean, everyone loves that, blowing the horn and the flags. And unfortunately, we didn't get the debts out, but it was great. And it was like, why have you got safety glasses? Why have you got these gloves? And what are they? And it was great. And I love doing that. And, it's trying to put as much more in as I can. I've been very privileged to get to the position where I am. And I want my staff to develop as I have. I've come up through the ranks, and it is about engagement. It's about building relationships, and it's to ensure that MPI continues like that.
Yeah, I see that as well, that you've brought a lot of people along behind you. I've been dealing with Tom Cartwright in the past, that you've coached up from coming in from being a young, fresh-faced recruiter to a hardened railway man as well. So,
Tom's one of these guys. He's probably got more awareness about the rules than I have now. Now, initially, I was a bit, I need to up my game here, but he's interfacing more with the guys. I mean, he done a very good safety video after a recent incident, and he took it all on. He got the guy to engage. The guy made quite a serious mistake. He got the guy to open up. He got the guy to agree to the video, and he believes it. Now he's a manager of his department, and I'm watching him talking to his guys like I spoke to him. And again, it's fantastic. And I think that's great to see. And I try not to be too miserable at work. I try to be as positive as I can to the guys, and whenever they go to site, I'm always extremely grateful. I try and take people with me as much as possible to share the experiences, because you have a good conversation on the way there and a good conversation way back. What did you see? What did you learn? That's really important. So we've got. I'm very fortunate. We've got a really good team. It's probably the best that we've ever had. But it is difficult times. It is difficult times. It has been a struggle. We've had to furlough staff. As I say, the aviation side was very quiet. We do a lot of work with defence. So we supply people out in the Falklands. All the RAF bases, Lossiemouth, across the country. It's a huge part of us. That was fairly part. March was a tough time for us. And, I think there's no point hiding that. We've had a very tough times. We've looked at how we run as a business, and how we can be more efficient, and the home working was brilliant. Paper, we don't use paper anymore. We had about 5 photocopiers, and if you get into the photocopying game, you're a rich man, because they cost a fortune. They charge you, but we don't use photocopies much anymore. We've cut that down. So yeah, it's learning every day. I mean, I don't know about you, but my job changes every day. There's always a different phone call. There's always a different circumstance. There's always something happening. And as I say, I do love it, but I do want the young people to come through and develop, and I'm just trying to give them as much support as I can.
Well, that's brilliant, Simon. Just to move on a little bit further then, we'll probably do this as a kind of two-pronged question. So the first one would be, what advice would you give to someone who wants to join the rail industry, that's maybe coming out of university just now, just coming off the back of COVID-19? There's not a huge amount of opportunities out there. What would your advice be?
I think depending where you are, you know, there are some really good companies who take on apprentices and graduate schemes. The railway is quite regionalised now.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, obviously there's Network Rail, and, you know, there's people like Alstom and Siemens and, you know, Volker Rail. You know, they're a great company to deal with.
Yeah.
So look at those companies, look at the graduate. Transport for London, if you're London based, they do some amazing apprenticeship and graduate schemes. You know, try and get involved in some of the local railway. There's quite a lot of preservation railway societies. Mr. Crab, our mutual friend, you know, you don't have to be quite as involved as he is, but, you know, a lot of the guys are interested in it, and a lot of those are ex-railway people you can get some great experience from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, in this day and age, you know, it is a fantastic career. You know, what I really like about it is that you can have people with first class honours next to guys who have got no qualifications.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah,
and I think that's
that diverse spread of people, don't you, from all different backgrounds and cultures coming through.
And I love that, because, you know, the guy who's got the first class honours will have a perspective, and he'll look at something, he'll deal with something a certain way. But then you've got that guy, that working class hero who hasn't got the qualifications, who's been on the tools, who's seen how it goes wrong, who's seen what poor leadership is, who's seen that, you know, the way that you talk to people if you don't talk to them right, and he's learned all that, and he gets to a top position, you know, through going up the different levels. And that's what I love about the railway, that we can all stand there together and we're all equal. You know, we are all equal, and, you know, we're all on the ballast together. We're all wearing the boots and the glasses and the gloves. So, yeah, but for anyone who's going into it, and you don't have to be, and the other thing, you don't have to be young.
A young person, you could be someone changing careers.
I think it's a different career option. You know, there's going to be a lot of people from different industries looking for a different career. And, you know, it's something which is exciting. It's something which you can grow into. There's lots of different areas, you know, from a commercial to a project management to planning to you know, building. You know, there's lots of great opportunities. So I'd say with the big companies, I think when some of the big projects get going, you know, we'll definitely be having the trainee scheme again, and that will be nationally. You know,
highly recommended from the Safe and Average podcast. Get yourself involved with the MPI Signal and Installer Training Scheme.
Yeah, and, you know, and again, those guys can go into different areas. I mean, I'm waiting for the day that one of those is a project manager, a project director, and he came up for a scheme like that, or a designer, you know, who's designed the next Crossrail 3 or 4 or HS2 or something like that. And that would be great that someone's done that, and they really can. And I think that's the wonderful thing about the railway. You know, you really have got every opportunity to go into different areas. And again, when you talk to some of the experienced guys, you know, they don't even know how they got to that career path. It should be planned out, but guys used to just go into railway because it was a regular job.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'd say to that person, you know, look at the different areas, and always reach out to people. If you don't know, always reach out, ask, because that's the other thing about the railway. There's a bit of a family around the railways, because I suppose, you know, they're the ones who, the Orange Army, I think they called them at one point, but the Orange guys and girls who give up their Christmas, you know, I always try and get out of Christmas, and, you know, social media.
I remember you coming up to Scotland once at Christmas and being out there with the guys on the ground.
That's it, and I try and do it, but I think my biggest ever LinkedIn view. I can't remember the numbers now, but it was on Boxing Day. I went to Thameslink and I went to a few different projects, and I got the guys a selection box.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy sent me the picture to say thank you. And I must have bought about 200 of these selection boxes. I was dropping on different sites, even guys who weren't working for me. I was, it was just a thank you for working over Christmas, and they the guys were really great. But it was afterwards. There was like people going, "That's brilliant. You've gone out and engaged with the guy." And the guys thought it was as well. So that's what I think. But as I say, yeah, look at some of the big companies. Look at some of the different. Obviously, there's lots of stuff on LinkedIn, but Network Rail, TfL, the different regions. There's the big companies, the Volkers, the Alstoms, the Siemens. They'll have apprenticeships. They'll have trainee graduate schemes, and you won't go far wrong if you get involved in one of those companies.
That's brilliant, Simon. And if we move on a little bit from there to talk about what advice would you give to someone starting out in health and safety as a career?
Well, I think you obviously need the underpinning knowledge. So, when I first started and I got the track safety qualification, and I did some engagement training, which was really useful. But when I did my ARSH, the managing safely,
Mm-hmm.
Again, I was in there with lots of different people.
Mm-hmm.
I was in there with the guy who'd been on the tools for 20 years and a bit of a skeptic.
Yeah.
I was there with a young trainee who was told yet to go on it. And then, I was the lady who taught me, this lady called Linda Salt, again, fantastic woman, very inspiring, really engaged. She said about the underpinning knowledge. You need the underpinning knowledge. You need the basic training to understand and to engage. So for anyone coming to health and safety, you need to have the right qualifications. Obviously, it's key. It's key to know, the law. That's protecting you and protecting the guys. But once you've got the qualifications, get the experience. It's the engagement with the people on site. Build those relationships. Don't be the health and safety police. Don't be their. I don't. You don't have to be their friend, but be their colleague.
Mm-hmm.
You work together. And I know you always for this. You're delivering the project together. You're not there to stop them from work. You're not there to make it difficult. You're there.
Make it easier. You're in the solutions business.
Correct. Yeah. A safe workplace is productive workplace.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really clear message for me that, if the guys are working safely, they're working productively, and, you're encouraging that. You're encouraging best practice. And that's something which, I've got great respect for you because you did that, and you're always looking for innovation as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something else. For anyone coming to health and safety, don't be afraid to think outside the box.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to ask a silly question. Don't be afraid to come up with something which might not work, but at least you've tried.
Yeah.
At least you've done something, and it's positive. And dare I say it, you do have to keep on. And it must be great for you because you love coming up with new ideas. But you're always challenging yourself.
Yeah.
You don't want a guy to sit there saying, I saw that last week. You want different people engaging with the guys. You've had some brilliant people over the years engaging with the guys, and getting them to think outside the box. And companies, as you know, really respect that as well. And I remember, the managing director for Siemens, Matt Kent, saying what a great guy you were because you always come up with brilliant suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't really know you that well, but I think you met him at the end of one of the safety events, and you were just chatting, and he said, this guy Blair was just coming up with these lots of different great ideas. He went, I want that. And that's what people, you need, because you've got to constantly get the engagement. And, it's so important, the behaviours and the culture of the guys and girls on site, that, when you've got people in positions like yourself, how they work with the people and engage with the people, and they, that's just as important as having a great construction manager. Because if you've got somebody working in health and safety who isn't being proactive, who doesn't listen, Because that's the other thing. It's all very well talking to somebody, but you've got to listen as well. And I know you do that because you remember and you'll say to guys, how'd you get on with this? And how's your son? And oh, your football team was rubbish at the weekend. And because you're listening, it's that. And that for me is, so the underpinning knowledge, getting the right qualifications, the experience on site, and being out with the guys on site. Don't be that health and safety guy who works Monday to Friday days, and all the work takes place on
The weekend. Yeah.
I've known guys like that sometimes, and and I'd say to those guys, don't do the railway, do another industry.
Yeah,
Be seen, and come up with the innovation, the different ideas, and and I think things like what you've done has been really good. And when we did the videos for the guys on the projects up in Glasgow.
Oh yeah, the little director's toolbox talk, the interactive one.
That was really good to get all of us making a commitment and our guys understanding. And you put us out of our comfort zone. There was lots of different characters there. There were some. I'm thinking of one guy in particular who loved being in front of that camera for another agency. Then
I'll remain nameless.
So you had my a friend of mine and a client of mine, Simon Slan of Ubeek, who was well out of his comfort zone. You know.
And he'd done a brilliant job. He came in, absolutely smashed it, presented an excellent video, and his people really received that well. Seeing him at maybe 3-4 o'clock in the morning in full Technicolor on a video, sitting, giving his commitment to working safely on sites, that's excellent. It's really powerful.
And it was really powerful, and we had some great conversations before the video, during the video, and after the video, because you're trying to think of what you have to say, which will articulate with the guys in a way that they'll feel responsible for you on site, and it really gets your soul searching on what you can do. And me and Simon had a bit of engagement about it, because he was sort of, he wanted to do the best he could, but as I say, it wasn't his comfort zone. He can stand in front of a guy in the forefoot, but you put him in a different place, which is fantastic. And that's what we want. That's what you always want. And going back to that Amy safety day, I had to give a briefing to a guy who was dropping a load off. Mm-hmm. And I was so nervous because I had to read this task briefing sheet, and I was going, oh, the date's wrong. And he went, oh, well done, you spotted that. And then I was trying to talk to the driver, but the banksman was. I was trying to talk to the banksman, but the driver was pretending to be on his phone, and I was getting all out of my. And that was really good for me, because I thought, wow, I've never done this, and it's taking people out of their comfort zone, and I think that's a really good thing to do with safety. Take people away from what they normally do, and show the spotlight on them.
Give them a bit of perspective on it, a different perspective. Yeah, definitely. Simon, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate you giving up your time to come and talk to us. It's been fantastic having you on. How do people get in contact with you if they want to come and do a bit of work with MPI?
Right. So if they want to get in contact with MPI, they can search mpi.ltd.uk. They can contact me. If they search me on LinkedIn, it's Simon Henser, Henser. I've got a great relationship with you. It's great to catch up with you. I really enjoy your podcasts. I love the different people that you have on. I found it, again, out of my comfort zone, because you've had some amazing people on and they've done some amazing things. But again, it's sharing different experiences.
Definitely.
I necessarily wouldn't have listened to those if it wasn't for you, and you shared those, and it's looking from everyone's different perspective, and some of the people you've had have been amazing. But yeah, I mean, that's one thing that it was a great opportunity. If people want to get in contact with MPI, they can. I've done this because I think it's really important to share how I think best practice is by engaging with guys on the ground and working with good people like you and companies that you work for. That's really important.
Thanks very much, Simon.
Take care, mate. Thank you.
This podcast is sponsored by Inside Out Group, the specialists in high-risk and challenging filming and time-lapse, covering health and safety videos for rail, construction and infrastructure projects nationwide.